What about your relationship with Lewis Carroll? I mean, what did you see in him that you mirrored that made you want to do the movie and then name this album Eat Me, Drink Me?
Well, I guess in the beginning I wasn't as aware of the parallels, other than the ones that were obvious to me, between his mental state and the one that I was sort of becoming. I think in some ways a lot of people close to me probably, I don't know if they said it to me literally or probably were saying it, whether they were saying it to me or behind my back or something, that I was becoming what I was writing about more than I thought. Because I started reading his diaries, and I chose to write a script based around the year 1869 when he wrote the poem Phantasmagoria, and he wrote that in January, literally 100 years to the week that I was born.
Wow.
And in his diaries, it's very, very Jekyll and Hyde. It's Charles Dodson, who is a very proper Oxford professor that teaches math, and then Lewis Carroll, who is everything that goes against what his father, who was Charles Dodson Sr., expected of him. And he was very torn with religion. And the thing that struck me the most and the simplest was that he wrote a ghost story after his father died. And this was a man who was supposed to become a priest and someone who believes in the supernatural. It struck me as very odd, so I started reading his diaries, and they were very dark. They were very compelling, and there was much more of the story than the obvious question. You know, the question that people posed to me first, oh, you're writing about Lewis Carroll, was he a pedophile? I think, in my opinion, no.
Yeah,
I don't even address it in my story because I don't think that's the point of it. I think that he's terrified of losing his youth, his spirit, and if you look at Alice in Wonderland, there's themes that come up, and you have to, when you read his diary, you understand why. The unbirthday party. His mother died on his birthday, so I'm sure his birthday wasn't a very nice day.
And you know, the funny thing is, that's my birthday. I've always resonated to his birthday, obviously, and it's Mozart's birthday as well.
Well, things come in threes.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, there's obvious parallels to The Last Supper.
Yeah.
And what I started to find interesting was that the book is supposedly the second most read book to the Bible, which is interesting because it doesn't ever say that she has blonde hair like Disney portrayed her. It doesn't ever say the Mad Hatter was even wearing a hat. That was just his name.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say Humpty Dumpty was shaped like an egg or anything like that. So I started looking at it and looking at him and seeing all of the parallels. And he was very inspired by Edgar Allan Poe.
Wow.
And Edgar Allan Poe, you know, who of course had this, you know, scandalous sort of Lolita sort of love affair. And then, of course, the book Lolita, a lot of people don't even realize that it was clearly inspired by Lewis Carroll. And Nabokov was the one who translated both Poe and Lewis Carroll into Russian for the first time.
Did this all happen to you before you met Evan? I mean, did you feel like you were like telling
no, at all. Yeah.
I mean, it's like you called this in, you know? I mean, there had to be days where you thought, God, did I create this reality?
In a lot of ways, yes. And the strange thing is that neither one of us really saw it coming. I think it was just interesting that I found anybody who was even familiar with any of the stuff that we just discussed. And so the concept of age and of conflict and the strangeness never really figured into it. And I think that it wasn't even really disappointing to me. I thought it was too cliche, and I can only expect, you know, what people initially started thinking, and even, you know, in my personal life, that things were something different than what they really are. And it was, you know, me finding somebody that I could actually relate to, and it was realizing that I was disappointed in the idea that I spent all my time watching films like The Hunger, Harold and Maude, True Romance, and I was just wanting to hit myself thinking, why isn't my life like that? Because I thought it was, but now I realize that there's such a fear about what's going to happen tomorrow that today isn't any good. I think that I've gone to great lengths from the beginning of becoming whatever it is that I've become now, that I've made my path for myself, and there's no reason why it can't be the way it should be. And I think it's ultimately fear. And I think letting down my guard to write the things that I wrote, and it ended up giving me the first real collaboration in songwriting with Tim Skold, because I had someone who made music that sounded exactly like what I needed to hear. It's almost as if he was scoring what he saw me feeling.
Yeah.
And it challenged me, and I felt really inspired, and I've never had that situation with any guitar players in the past. I've always had to tell them, can you make it sad? Can you make it angry? Can you... And it flowed right, and it allowed me to simply concentrate all my strength on what I wanted to say and singing it. And that's all I worried about. And it made me happy to sing again, and I was excited to play it live, and we just finished 8 weeks in Europe, and it was very new and different, and not in the way that I've always hated when somebody comes out with a new record that you like a lot, that's had previous records, and they focus too much only on a new album.
Yeah.
But this stuff was very it was able to transform into the set with the other songs quite well, and it makes for some absurd greater picture that I'm probably too close to see yet.